Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Wake Up Wednesday. Now remember, if you're not already subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go hit the subscribe button right now. Listen, around here we are all about empowering one another, as I do see this as a community, and we are a community. Empowerment, bettering ourselves, you know, working to be the best version of ourselves, and ultimately reclaiming and walking in our power every single day. That is what it is all about, okay? I'm all about breaking those rules and doing the things that people told you couldn't do. That's what we do around here. Also mixed in with a whole lot of fun as well. So make sure you subscribe, and you can be expecting videos from me across the week, especially these Wake Up Wednesdays, which come out every single Wednesday in order to encourage and to motivate you exactly where you are. So make sure you subscribe. Now we're gonna dive straight into it because I wanted to make this very short and very, very simple. But basically today we had another online church session. I don't know what to kind of call them, but obviously we're with Corona quarantine, which by the way, guys, my heart, my prayers are with you. Just know that, listen, I pray for a covering over you and your family right now in the name of Jesus. I just pray for strength during this time. If you have lost anyone, if anyone is in, you know, in hospital, is sick, is in critical condition, I just pray for peace and comfort during this time. I pray that, you know, God's angels will just encamp around your family member, your friend, your loved one, and just strengthen them right now in the name of Jesus. And I just pray that, you know, truly all of this will just pass over your home. It will not affect you. It will not touch you, your family, your household, in Jesus' name. You know, please just continue to stay safe. So today I want to talk to you guys about something that was actually dropped. It hit me differently when it was dropped today. So obviously Corona quarantine, we are not able to gather at church, we're not able to go to church, so we have to do it online now. So we had another online service, Cyber Church. I go to Light London, you guys already know, link in the description box below. But ultimately there was a line that was dropped and I wrote it down because I have to write notes so I can remember. We die in transition. What if, and I don't know if this was also said in the sentence, but I think I added this part. So they said, we die in transition, and then I added, what if in the transition / the wilderness is where the revelation is? Oh my freaking days. And that's exactly what you're seeing, why you're seeing the title today, Wait in the Wilderness. Now let's just look at the wilderness for a second. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? The wilderness looks very, very different for different people. So if we looked at it from like a biblical perspective, the wilderness was always used as a way to describe a harsh place, a place of uncomfortability, a place whereby things were just not as nice, as comfortable as you'd want them to be. So oftentimes the wilderness was where, for example, in the wilderness, that's where Jesus was tempted by the snake. Well, not exactly tempted. The snake tried to tempt, Satan tried to tempt Jesus, but Jesus didn't give in. Okay, a real G. Another example of the wilderness is when the Israelites were taken out of Egypt, you know, they were taken out of slavery and they had to go through the wilderness. A journey that should have taken, I think it was 7 days. It took them 40 years. They ended up being in the wilderness for 40 years because they weren't listening to what God wanted them to do, and they just weren't responding accordingly. So they stayed in the wilderness for 40 years. But again, it ties straight into our point about catching the revelation. But there's different places in the Bible where it describes about like the wilderness and that space of the wilderness. Now, looking at it from like a human perspective and like wherever you're at, the wilderness could be what is in front of you right now. You might feel like you're in the wilderness right now. Maybe you have just lost a loved one. Maybe you are going through a really, really rough time. Maybe you are just not there financially. Maybe you are struggling to pay your bills. Maybe you are struggling because your kids are moving crazy and mad and they're being just horrible and disrespectful and treating you like crap. Maybe your partner, like your marriage just feels like the wilderness right now. Like you guys are arguing all the time and you guys are not getting along and everything just seems to be clash. The wilderness looks very, very different for different people. But what that quote that I don't know if it was Apostle Toby or Pastor Nicola, our senior leaders at our church, I don't know who said it, but whoever said that, it clicked something differently in me. They said some of us die in transition. We die in transition because we're being taken through a process in order to get to a promised land. We're being taken through a process in order to get to that dream, that goal, that thing that we've been grafting and grinding so hard for. And then literally maybe halfway through or at the last inch, where if we just kept pushing for just one more second, we just kept going just for just one more minute, if we just kept pushing ourselves, we could have made it out of that wilderness and into that dream. But because we gave up, we died in transition. We died in the wilderness. We didn't wait for the revelation. We didn't wait in the wilderness. Now, please don't get it twisted. Waiting in the wilderness doesn't mean that you're just sitting there tapping your leg thinking, okay, God, okay, what's next? What's gonna happen? Okay, cool, what's the next step? No. Waiting in the wilderness still means working. It still means plowing. It still means putting together a strategy. It still means putting together a plan. It still means, you know, releasing content. It still means doing whatever it is that you need to do in that moment, even though, despite, irrespective of the fact that it feels uncomfortable, you don't feel safe, you feel like it's you know, you're being pulled in different directions, you feel like part of you wants to run back in the other direction because you'd rather go back to comfortability, you'd rather go back to what you knew, you'd rather go back to a safe place than be in this uncomfortable, weird, annoying, frustrating, overwhelming place that you're in right now. But what would happen if you could literally look back at your life and you got to the end of your life and you were able to look back and reflect? You know when people say, my life flashed before my eyes? What if you had that privilege of seeing your eyes flash, seeing your life flash before your very eyes, and you just see that you were in the wilderness? Yes, it was horrible, it was horrific, it was traumatizing, you didn't enjoy that moment, but if you just kept going, you would have gotten to the other side. Just imagine, like, imagine the level of regret, pain, frustration you would feel if that was you. If you decide that right now, because you feel as though you are uncomfortable, because you're in the wilderness, because you're in a space that you do not like, because you are impatient, you are not willing to be patient because you have this stupid idea of time, and you feel as though, well, I should have done this by the time I was this age, and this should have happened by the time I was this age, and because you have this stupid perception of time and how you think it would work and how you think God should be doing things in your life, because you have that perception, you didn't wait in the wilderness, therefore you missed out on all the great things that was meant to come to you. Do you know the level of pain? Do you know the level of anger, frustration? Do you know how insulted I would be if I literally did that? I decided, I was just like, do you know what, this is not working out, I just can't bother anymore. I'm tired of bloody being in the wilderness. I'm tired of being in an uncertain position. I'm tired of not knowing where my paychecks are gonna come every month. I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that. I've just had enough, and I just leave it, drop everything. I'm just like, I'm just gonna go and live a regular life, whatever that means. I'm gonna go grab myself a 9-to-5. Absolutely nothing wrong with a 9-to-5, but for someone like me, who I know was not built for a 9-to-5, I know that. You know when you just, you know, you maybe were built for a 9-to-5. I know myself, I just was not built for that. So me going back to do the exact things that I worked so hard to get away from, and then I look back at my life one day and I'm like, wow, what could have been? Do you know how angry and frustrated I would be? I can't lie, I would be so vexed. Because I would be there comparing all the things that I could have gained, all the things that I could have achieved, all the things that I could have done, all the lives I could have impacted and changed if I just waited in the wilderness. I was patient enough to allow my process to transpire. I was patient enough to wait, to be still, to be present, to just allow myself the space to learn from what it is that I'm experiencing. But instead, I decide to quit. Instead, you decide to quit. And then you're the one that's gonna have to look back at your life, or you're the one that's gonna have to tell your kids about stories of how you wanted to achieve this thing, and you wanted to do this and you wanted to do that. And then when they ask you, so why didn't you do it? Oh, just because, you know, it just wasn't working out. Well, why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you try something different? Why did you feel as though it was okay for you to give up? Why? Because it's not. It's not. And I've said it before, I keep repeating it, and I'll say it again. There is, for myself, I don't know about you, but there is absolutely no alternative. There is no alternative to me being successful, and successful at the level of which I believe I have been called to be successful. I know I've been called for great, indescribable levels of wealth. That's just something that I just know. I just know that about myself. I have that certainty. It's like there's just something inside of me that just doesn't understand not being able to do certain things because of finances. It just doesn't work for me. As somebody, and trust me, I know, because as somebody who has had that for a very long time, who came from a very, very working class background, who came from a background whereby things were not handed to you, or you weren't given things on a silver spoon, Trust me, that uncomfortable feeling that I felt every single time I was limited because of finances, I know that it was there for a reason. Therefore, I know that I've been called for great wealth. I know that I've been called for a number of incredible, amazing things and to bless so many people. So for me to be blessed so that I can be a blessing. But now if I decide, oh, I'm slapping myself up. But now if I decide to not wait in the wilderness, if I decide not to wait for the revelation, if I decide not to take a moment to just say to myself, I know this is uncomfortable, I know this hurts, I know I don't like it, I know the grind is hard, I know it's frustrating, I know I feel overwhelmed, I know I constantly feel like I'm fighting a losing battle, I'm going uphill with bags and baggage and expectation and this and that and family and all these different things on me. I know I do not like it, but I know that it's worth it. That's the level of energy that you need to have. That's the level of energy that I need to have every single day, so that it allows me to say, okay, right now, in this moment, I know I don't like it, but I'm gonna wait. Even if I have to be in the wilderness for however many years, and I pray that it isn't that case, and that God brings things quite soon, because I'm tired. But you hear stories of people all the time that are like, yo, I had to work 30 years. And those are the people that I want to be like. Do you know why? Because those are the people that have legacy. Not the ones that are one-hit wonders. Not the ones that come and go. Not the ones that are like, all of a sudden they're on a high and they blow and they do all of these amazing things. And then by the next year, nobody even knows who they are anymore. No, that's not what it is. I'm looking for long-term legacy. I'm looking for achievements that go beyond me. Achievements that my children's children can still stand on. Achievements and generational things that they are able to say, do you know what, this is the type of family that I come from. That is what I want. What do you want for yourself? Because you have to ask yourself that question, and you've got to get very, very real. Are you willing to, in order for you to build a certain something that you have in your heart and in your mind, you might have a vision of a certain lifestyle you want to live. Are you willing to grind and to graft and to do whatever is necessary, even when things don't look like they're working out the way that you want them to be, and you feel like you are in the wilderness? Are you willing to keep walking in that wilderness, to wait in that wilderness, to be patient in that wilderness for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, however many years it takes? Are you willing to do that? Because I can't lie to you, I know that there is no other alternative for me. So however long it flipping takes, guess what? We're gonna ride this wave. I'm gonna keep going until it happens. Because there's just, I don't know how to describe it, guys. There's just no alternative. You can't give yourself the space to have a plan B. Only because it kills plan A. And I'm not talking about doing the exact thing that you said you were going to do 10 years ago and doing that same exact thing 10 years later. No. Like, things that I've done, and I've spoken about it so many times on my channel. I started a whole other business. I had 2 businesses that I was running. I'm running elements of my one business now, has various elements, but which is why I say businesses, but I actually physically had 2, as in registered businesses, 2 of them, okay? One was Nicity Ltd, which is what everything comes under, from my speaking engagements to my power class stuff. Everything comes under there. My POWERWEAR collection, everything is all in that basket, right? Then I also had BEBB, which was all about education, all that kind of stuff. And then after about a year of working so hard on that, I had to heed the voice of God, and I had to be like, okay, God, you're telling me that this ain't it. And I had to be okay with that. After I'd put in so much work and effort, and I had spent time and energy and put it in that, I had to be like, this isn't it. And I had to leave it. I dissolved the company. I did what was necessary, and I left it at that. So it doesn't mean that it's just the same thing that you are doing. It just means that as a whole, are you willing to not give up on that dream? Are you willing to do whatever is necessary in order for you to get to that place? It might look different as you go along on the journey. It might shift and it might change. It might evolve. All of that good stuff. Just like now, the things that I'm doing right now will definitely shift and evolve over the next few years. I just know that, because you have to move ahead with the times, and you have to update, and you have to stay on top of what's happening around you. So I know it's going to shift and change. But one thing that still stands is that there's no space for failure. There is no space for an alternative. There is no alternative. That's just the way it is. There is absolutely no alternative. So, you know, I really do call you to ask yourself that same question. Are you willing to wait in the wilderness? Are you willing to stand your ground, even when you are being tempted by Satan himself, who's like, oh, you know, you don't need to do all of that. You don't need to fulfill your purpose. You know, you're not good enough anyway. You're not this, you're not that. All of that kind of stuff, right? Are you willing to still wait in the wilderness? Are you still willing to be patient? Are you still willing to stand your ground? Ask yourself those questions. Anyway guys, thank you guys so much once again for locking in. I love and appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Subscribe, okay? Don't play with me. Subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified every single time I post a brand new video. And of course, I'll be back same time next week for another Wake Up Wednesday. Stay beautiful.